Prawn here with some tips and tricks that I've learnt while playing around 90 hours of Starfield. A variety of different things that will hopefully help you out. Stick with me as I'll show you all sorts of things, including farming creatures for XP, sorting out your ship, and upgrading your skill points really easily, and just generally having a better experience without losing your head. If you're building or upgrading your ship in Starfield, but you can't finalize it because of errors, and one of those errors is unattached modules, then don't worry, because there's this really easy solution to find out where it is if you can't fathom where the unattached module is. Click on one part of the ship with your mouse and press and hold the left mouse button until it selects all. This will work on console with the left button, and basically what you're doing is pressing and holding it, and it'll select everything, and it will show you everything that is attached in red, and the things that aren't attached will be in their standard colors. You can then move them around and reattach them so that they're all correctly installed, and this should then solve the problem. Now, this is really handy if you can see that there's no unattached modules in the space around your ship and everything looks fine. You just press and hold that button and it'll show you when everything is indeed fine, and then the error message should disappear. If you're trying to steal a ship that's landed on a planet, the best thing to do is to sneak past the crew once they've come out of the cargo bay and walked onto the surface. If you can sneak past them without shooting them or engaging with them, then you can steal the ship. What I found, it is also possible to kill everybody inside once they've initially landed before they even manage to get off. You can then work your way into the ship and dispatch everybody inside and clear out the ship, including the main cabin, and then you should be able to take it over. One thing to note is you'll see that I have actually boarded a ship that has now taken off into space, so not necessarily ideal, as I wanted to stay on the planet's surface, but it is possible to do. It can be a little bit tricky though. Once you've cleared out everything inside, you can then take the ship over and register it. More on that in a second, because there is actually a really quick way to do this you might not be aware of. The better way to do this is to sneak past the guards and not even engage with them. However, if you have got a suppressed weapon and the ability to sneak, so going crouch and maybe using the chameleon armor that makes you invisible, then you can pick them off if you're careful with a few headshots. As long as they don't fire at you, you should be fine. You can then sneak your way onto the ship and then deal with everybody inside, and then you can take it over and make it your own. Obviously there is some use to this because you can get in the ship, claim it as your own, and then sell it and make some money. You can also loot everything inside, including the captain's locker and the cargo hold, so that's well worth doing. Once you're inside, you'll hear the alarm going off, but then if you just clear out the cabin and any other areas in the ship, you should be able to take it over. The bigger ships have a lot more rooms to work through, but if you kill everybody in there and loot everything as you're going, you can get a good bit of money out of this, so it can be worth doing. And you'll often find ships just randomly landing on planets quite a lot if you're exploring, so it can be good to do. I managed to get 4 different ships off this one planet, for example, and then just make profit from that. Now, if you get into the sea, obviously you can claim that ship as your own. Sometimes you might find that you can't because the ship's a higher class than you can actually fly, and I'll show you a tip for that as well. But if you go into the main menu and then click on the ship itself on the left hand side, you'll see that there's an option in the bottom right to make this your home ship. So the ship that you've taken over, you can make it your home ship, and then once you've done that, you can then register from here, so you don't actually have to go to another planet. You'll see the option then becomes to register. You will have to pay credits to do so though, so you will lose some value. Some of the skills in Starfield allow you to upgrade your ship and do other things, but some of them require you destroying various different ships. You can see here I've got to destroy 30 ships to unlock this piloting skill. This can be pretty tricky, but you'll see there are others in the science menu, for example. This one that gives you extra point of power from a reactor. That again requires you destroying ships. This can mean that you've got them fly around, look for ships to destroy, which can be a bit of a mission and a pain because you can't guarantee that there will be some. But there is a workaround for this. In the Alpha Centauri system, there's actually a place that you can go where you can easily churn your way through loads of ship kills without any problems. If you head over to the Mars district on Jemison, which you've probably been to already because it's part of the main storyline, then there's a place there where you can actually go into a ship simulator. The ship simulator gives you a virtual ship experience, which is good for learning space combat, but more importantly, it also helps you rank up those skill points. So if you head over to the Vanguard building in the Mars district of Jemison, you can then sign up to join the Vanguard. So talk to the commander here and he'll talk you through basically the process, which is fairly straightforward. You basically just have to follow an elevator down, then go into the relevant place in the building in order to access the pilot simulator. Now the pilot simulator will basically put you into a virtual simulation where you then have a ship that's different obviously from your main ship, and you're fighting against various different virtual ships. The bonus of this is obviously not only is it a main quest line, but also it will allow you to rank up those skills by killing loads of ships. You can also use these debugging tools, make note of where that console is in the ship, because that will help you with some upgrades that will help you pass through this. Now this is done in waves, so there are more and more difficult waves to get through to complete the quest, but also just doing it will give you those extra points of killing ships, and it is a really easy way to do it. Now, if you get out of the pilot's seat and go back over to the debugging tool, you can activate a variety of different boosts, and this won't have a negative impact on the story, on this quest, or on what we're trying to do here. You can see that you can upgrade the shields, your damage, and generate an ally, and that will help you get through the waves, but also just to destroy more ships. You work your way through a number of different waves in here, with the enemies getting more and more difficult. Eventually they'll probably be so difficult that they will destroy you, which is obviously unfortunate, but it's not really your ship, it's just a virtual ship, so there's no harm to your actual ship, and there's no problems. And because these are obviously waves, you don't have to go hunting in space hoping that you bump into someone that you can then fight. You can then just destroy them and keep destroying them, working your way through the waves, and eventually you'll be told that you've got sufficient levels in order to pass the quest. The important point to note here is you can exit the simulation ship, or you can just carry on with those waves if you want to. But if you exit the ship and then go back in again, you'll start from the beginning, which means you can then fight the low-level ship enemies and make it much easier for yourself. You can also head back over to the debugging tool and access the authorized only section. If you've got some digipics, you can hack into this, and it's breaking into some extra boosts, which is essentially cheating at the pilot simulator. But this doesn't matter, because what it enables you to do is to add extra upgrades and another ally, so a more powerful ally, to the fighting, which then means that you can kill more and more ships. This obviously means that you then are churning through not only the experience, but also more importantly hitting those requirements for the various skills in order to get those ship kills and get the points you need to unlock them. So just work your way through here, and it's a much easier way to unlock this so that you can then fly Class C ships, or just get those extra upgrades for the ship design or ship parts from the science tree and other things. It's really simple. If you're anything like me, you're probably stealing everything that's not nailed down in Starfield so you can make some money. But sometimes, unfortunately, you'll come to some quest givers that will then refuse to talk to you unless you pay your bounty. And then you go through this process of basically losing all the stuff that you've stolen. As you can see it painfully disappearing from your inventory after you've been arrested. This is horrible, and it pains me every time. Now, yes, you can quick save regularly and load again, but you probably can't get past that point very easily. However, there is something that you can do. There is a trick that you can use to avoid this. So obviously, if you have quick saved, load that point back up again, and what you can do is basically go through and eat anything that's stolen food. Any medication. This is one solution, obviously. Just abuse the system by getting rid of it by ingesting it, which might seem like a waste, but it is one thing that you can do. The other thing that you can do, though, is that you can also head off to a nearby hidden area, so somewhere out of view of the person you've got to speak to or anybody else that might see you do it, and deposit your things either on the floor, so you can just drop them, chuck them on the floor, anything that's stolen, or you can put it in a container. So you can see me here working my way through my inventory, look for anything with the red marker on it that shows that it's stolen, and just deposit it in that storage box. This then means that yes, I've still got the bounty, but now I don't have any stolen items on me, so I have to pay the bounty in order to be able to talk to him. I get arrested, as I did before, but now I'm not losing any of the gear when I've been arrested, so you're only just losing the credits. So as long as your bounty's not too high, it's not too much of a problem. Once that's done, you just go back to the quest giver, find the place where you stashed all your items, and then collect them again. Obviously, you want to pay him off first, as I've just done, and then collect all your gear, and then it's just like nothing happened. Now, sometimes you might well get arrested, and it's pretty much unavoidable. For example, I've been scanning space, they worked out that I've got a bounty on me, and now it's either fight a load of ships or surrender and give up all my stuff. This is obviously an unfortunate situation because you can't just throw your stuff out into space and avoid them stealing it. It's not quite as easy to stash the stolen items. But if you get taken to a place like this, you may well find there's a security locker nearby. So put in your sneaking abilities, use your digipicks, and break your way back into this. Now you can see all the different things that are being removed from my inventory in the top right, but that's not a problem because we can just break into this storage container and then we can just steal all our loot back. So you're basically solving your issue. In this stolen items locker here, which is on Jemison, for example, you can just go through the stolen items locker and then just take everything back really quickly and easily. And then obviously you can go and sell it to a vendor that doesn't mind buying stolen gear, or just carry on using it as you were before. So that's a nice tip for holding on to stuff if you're a bit of a kleptomaniac. If you're trying to create a clean view of the world of Starfield, then you might well know of the photo mode. So photo mode enables you to basically take a camera and position it wherever you want, applying filters, adjusting your character position, and doing other things that you can take nice images for thumbnails or wallpapers or just for use in the game. Actually uses your own screenshots as loading screens, which is pretty awesome, and it looks really clean and awesome. But one of the other things that you can do if you want a much cleaner gaming experience, so that you can create views like this where you have no HUD and you've just got a really clear view of the world, and you can then just create clips of running endlessly through various different planets, pretending it's not boring while running off towards the stars. Then the first thing you need to do is to melee your companion and then go over to the settings options, and we can then turn the HUD off completely. So open the menu, head over to settings, and that for the interface section, and then just turn the HUD opacity to 0. You can then see that that ditches all the HUD and overlay, so you have a much cleaner view of the world around you. Now obviously you lose quest markers and other information like that, so perhaps downside, but if you bring up your scanner you'll actually still see a lot of that information, so that can be handy. And this is obviously a much nicer looking view. Now you can do something similar when you're on board a ship as well. So if you're flying, if you press and hold the middle mouse button, so push it in, you can then basically quickly and easily ditch that view and have the HUD missing. So it's similar to doing the opacity, except it's only temporary, and you can do it for the various different views. This is ideal because it means that you can use this for a cleaner view, but also just to take a quick screenshot if you don't want to use the photo mode. So it's pretty handy and it's really easy to do. If you've followed the quest line that gets you in with the Crimson Fleet, but you still really enjoy killing the pirates and the bonus XP that comes with doing so, then it is worth knowing something. Now, unfortunately, if it all goes wrong and you're spotted killing them, you will get a bounty on you, which is obviously not ideal because that's wasted money. But it is possible to actually kill them still and avoid those bounty problems. The best way to do this is to not shoot your teammates, but to have a silenced weapon and then basically just not let anybody see you shoot them. So if you've got a suppressed weapon and the ability to go cloaked, as long as no one sees you kill a person, then it's fine. And if there are no witnesses at all, then there's no problems. So if you do find that you're in a room full of people, you can kill them all and that'll actually clear off any witnesses and remove any bounty that might have appeared. But you can also shoot them before they even shoot you. And because they think you're friendly, they're no threat to start with. So it gives you the opportunity to make loads of XP really easily. I would recommend a cheeky quick save before you murder each person though. In order to add mods to your weapons, spacesuits and other things, you need to have the requisite skills from the skills tree, and then also a bunch of resources that you can then use at the research station to research and then be able to craft these things. This requires a lot of different resources and it can be a problem, but there is one thing that makes life a little bit easier. So there are some different stims that you can get that you'll find under the aid section if you buy or search for them. One of which, for example, is the Synapse Alpha. you'll see that research projects require less resources for 10 minutes when this is used, and then you can go into the projects and go through and find the relevant ones. The interesting thing about this is sometimes it will get a knock-on effect where when you actually research something, even if you don't have that item in your inventory, you might find that it auto-populates when you're doing the other ones, and this can then have a knock-on effect and fill those in. You can also get other aids and stims that you can use that will apply to these, and then it will make it much quicker and easier, and you don't need to worry about harvesting as many resources around the world. You might have heard the tip that killing flocking creatures is a good way to earn experience points. I want to give you a few other tips related to this, because I managed to find a world with these floating brain creatures which will come over and try and nom on your head. But they're really easy to kill, as you can see, and basically one magazine with 5 shots in it was enough to earn 100 experience points, and if you're churning your way through loads of these, then you can get loads of experience points and level up your skills really quickly. And I've actually managed to pass through multiple levels in a few hours doing this. This then opens up, obviously, skill points, which you can then spend in various different ways. I have used them in different ways too. Stealth, for example, was one of them, because it's really easy to stealth these creatures because you can just crouch and shoot at a long range with a sniper rifle that's suppressed, and that counts obviously as a sneak attack, which then gets you bonus damage as well as that sneak requirement for the extra skills. There are other skills that are worth spending money on as well, like ones that kill the different creatures and give you a boost. But as you'll see, I'm level 49, and if you go in there you can basically see how much experience you need to get through. If you've got a powerful enough weapon and it's fast firing enough, or will do massive critical damage like this one does, then you can see that you can basically chip through these creatures really easily and get loads of XP pretty quickly. If you upgrade your skills so that you get extra loot out of the creatures after you've killed them, that can really help too. So there are things to do. What I'd recommend is spending your skill points on weapons that you really like. So obviously in this instance it makes sense to spend skill points on rifles, sniping and scoped weaponry, and then you can upgrade your favourite weapon and your abilities with it while fighting enemies that aren't really going to fight back very much. Now you will also find herding creatures knocking around in some of these worlds, and they'll flock towards you too, but I like these floating ones in the air because they're really easy to see at a distance. What I've also found that's useful is that if you've killed off some in an area, you can then fast travel on the planet, end up in a new area, and they'll spawn around you. This means that you can avoid having to walk a great distance, because you see I've just fast traveled and now there's a great big bunch just there, so you don't need to keep moving around the world, and then you can just fast travel again. By the way, did you know that you can fast travel to a light side of the planet? So if you spin the planet around, pick a spot that has light on it on the map, you'll then be daylight instead of night time, which is also handy. So there are various different things that you can do here to maximize the number of skill points you're getting, and also what you're going to be using them for, and then potentially how much damage you're doing over time. I went from level 47 right up to 50 and then up to 62 eventually. I did have to kill a hell of a lot of creatures to do it though, so we've got 2,000 creatures killed here, and obviously that means a lot of bullets. Skill points can also be spent on other useful things in the combat section, so not only on the particular weapons that you like, for example rifles, but also on reloading. I'd recommend using that skill, reloading skill. It speeds up how fast your weapon reloads, so if you're firing a fast firing weapon like this revolver for example, it will then reload much more quickly, and that makes it a lot easier to then keep churning through those kills. If you'd like to see if this planet will work for you as well, then here it is. It's over in the Hyla system, and it's Hyla 2 is what you're looking for. Can't guarantee, unfortunately, that this will work for you, because there's obviously a lot of procedurally generated planets with different creatures on, but maybe you'll find it here. Just land anywhere in the swamp areas. Have you ever found yourself in this situation where you try to get through a door and it's locked, but you haven't got any digipicks because you've used them all robbing everything else in sight? Well, the game's actually not that punishing, and you may well find that there is a solution to this. It's really straightforward, and that's basically just looting the nearby area. The designers of the game have actually made it so generally you'll find there's either a digipick on a shelf, or, like I've just found, a key. So there was a key to that door, which will just open it in a second. Now, I could have wasted a digipick on that door if I'd had one, but I've just found the key for it, so it's well worth looking around for loot. In this area, for example, I found 2 keys for 2 different doors, and that solved my issues. Without any spoilers, I want to talk to you about how to access the power temples in Starfield and things to know when you're looking for them and then going inside. These unlock various different power abilities, which I'm not going to cover because I don't want to ruin that for you. It is worth doing, and it's part of the main quest line. Now, you'll get a quest to go and look for the scanner anomalies on various different planets. Once there, if you get your scanner out, you can then scan the various things, and you'll see that you have a number of different gravitational anomalies on the planet. That's not actually what you're looking for, though. What you want to do is make sure you land close to the scanner anomaly and then look for the large towers. You will see that your scanner changes, so the circle around the middle basically glitches out with various different colours when you're facing the right direction, and that will then point you in the direction. Sometimes you'll get lucky like I've just done and you'll see the tower in the distance and immediately know where you've got to go. Other times you have to sort of scan the horizon to see it. Now once you're inside the tower, you just need to go through a sequence of events. There are some rings in the middle which you activate and then they'll spin around. And it was hard to work out what you needed to do initially, but basically what you've got to do is float from one light source to another. So these light sources will appear like a spherical spinning light source in the room, and you have to get to it before it dissipates. So they will disappear after a period of time. So use your boost pack and just shoot across the room using up and down, shift and control to move up and down in the area, basically to hit these, and you need to try and get to them before they disappear and then move on to the next one. You have to go through a series of these, a few different ones before it will finalize and complete, and it is a bit of a pain to do, especially if you missed some of them, but you can just keep doing it. Unfortunately you can't shoot them, you do have to glide into them, so just keep boosting your way around the room until that's done. You'll know when it's done because the sound in the middle will change and the rings will spin faster until they eventually stop, and then you just have to float into the middle of it and claim your power. And this is now complete, and then you can basically go on and get the rest of the powers in the various different areas, and you'll find those by talking to Vladimir and then just following the quests.